Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Lists, a little series I'm doing to cover a bunch of broad subjects that interest me. List stands for Life is Short because I always think, even in the grand scheme of things, if life is short, there's still plenty of time to talk about a bunch of dumb or interesting things. And for today's subject, we're going to be talking about the good old nature. For me, nature has always been the key aspect to making sure my mind can stay healthy and also for me to stay healthy. Ever since I've been a kid, the nature and everything in it has always just fascinated me to beyond unfathomable parts. And now, while I'm older, I'm able to see all the different kinds of beauties I never noticed and really appreciate it for what it is. There's always the common advice of, oh, get outside, go see nature, see its beauty. And while that common advice is always very good, I feel like there's so many different aspects to what nature can provide and the things you can truly see out in it that are the reasons why people do it. For me, a thing I love to do is hiking. I always love just going out to a semi-secluded or very secluded part of anywhere and just hiking and looking around. I find it's a great way to just narrow down my mind to just what's around me. I've always had issues with properly focusing on stuff in the way of being in the moment. So a lot of the times I'm running just more on autopilot and not really there. But while I'm in nature, I really find it's beautiful to just finally be able to just narrow my mind down to what's actually happening in real life and what is happening around me. When you just notice the wind rolling by, the birds chirping, the squirrels running in the grass, it's all just so peaceful, and that's always what I have loved. I always feel like people don't either properly have the idea of what nature can provide and how you're able to truly get away. I know with how life is right now, there's so many things that just pile on super quick and it just becomes a whole stress load of bills to pay, things to do, work to be done. But what I love about nature is once you get out into it, all you have to think about is what's happening around you. If you're out just on a day hike, you don't have to worry about much besides maybe just drinking some water. So even if you start to think about what's actually happening in real life, you kind of just slowly forget about it and just start thinking about step by step what you're doing in a literal sense. And what I think gets this to the next level is camping. Now I know there aren't some people who like camping, and I personally do get it, where you have to be out in the elements for a certain amount of time, and you might not like that idea of having to maybe get some bad sleep or having to set up a tent and sleep in it, and then getting across to where you actually need to go for that entire camping trip. But what I find from camping trips is even if there's those downsides, you're able to truly get into the experience of nature. Once you go through the first or second day of camping, once you're on like that third day and you're fully in the elements, you just start to be like fully aware of your surroundings and how it is. I remember I did a week-long canoe trip where I canoed around and then we camped, of course. And once I got to the middle point of that is when I had the most fun, when I was most involved in nature. When I was just canoeing around, just listening to what was happening around me and looking around at what was happening. And it made me realize just what the true beauty can be if you just stop and listen. If you ever are out just outside, just taking that step around and just being like, I wonder what that plant looks like more up close, and then looking at it, or being like, that bird call sounds interesting. Let me hear it a bit more interestingly by focusing on it more. There's all these types of things you can do while you're out in nature that really make you, I would say, get in tune with your original self of being a little cave person running around just trying to survive. I don't know how much science is actually behind the idea of nature and you actually going back to your original rooted primordial self. But I find, at least with me, that there is some sort of connection of just when I'm outside and feeling like I'm just back at my roots, even though that's not necessarily nature was the most rooted part of my childhood. So whenever I'm outside, it almost feels like I'm going back to a lost home, where once I'm out there and just stop and listen, it feels like you just walked into a room of sorts, except this room is so large and so big, but full of so much life you just can't help but feel happy. I know for me that when I'm actually out in nature, it is really hard for me to be stressed just because of what it can provide in the calming aspects. I always feel that even if some people don't even like to go out in nature that much just because of a bunch of stuff that can, easily be annoying of, oh, it's winter, so it's really cold. Oh, it's hot, so I'm going to be sweating. I'm going to have to put on sunscreen. The things I talked about camping beforehand. But still, even with all of those considered, if you're able to just get the courage and the motivation just to get the resources needed to just go out into nature for a bit, I would say that is what everyone needs to be able to just relax in this kind of day and age. If you're not able to properly relax in this life, that's when stress creeps up on you and gets the worst it possibly can. I would definitely know that because I've been there. But I still find it necessary that you need to have those ways to properly relax. And if you just go outside and start noticing all the beauty of it, you can, I would say, really get that break that you deserve. Because in my opinion, nature just isn't about what's happening in the place. It's about focusing your entire existence on what is happening in that place. Forgetting about everything and just really becoming a part of the nature you are in. When you're walking on that trail, how is the trail sounding? How many rocks are there? What kind of flora is around? Any sort of mushrooms or berries? How are the birds doing up there chirping? See any deer or squirrels? There's all these little things you can have in the back of your mind that gets you immersed into nature, and I would say is a sort of video game where you're just kind of doing it and getting so immersed you kind of forget about all of the annoying or dumb parts of it. Video games might be an interesting example to use, but I know when I'm really enjoying a video game playthrough, I just start to get immersed into it where I'm just continuously trying to make sure I play it and trying to get to that end goal, and maybe the gripes with the games kind of slowly go away. I believe with nature, you can have that same aspect where if you just focus on it enough, you're able to just forget about those slight inconveniences and just immerse yourself. Immersing yourself in nature is really just what I want to take away from this talk, because I find it such an important skill for everyone to be able to maybe just go to your local park and watch the squirrels, or plan a backpacking trip or a slight camping trip and going out into the middle of nowhere. I know for me how I get the most out of my nature experiences is removing the society from the nature. If I can get into nature where society is nowhere around it and it is purely just you are in the middle of nowhere, that is where I find the true ability to properly decompress and just focus on what's around me and take that true well-deserved break. Anyways, that's all I'm going to have here today. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.